Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health, the Wellness Forum Institute, and Make Americans Free Again. We're still taking applications for Food Over Medicine clubs and MAFA tribes, Make Americans Free Again tribes. Building an informed society is part of how we move out of where we've been for a long time. This is the path forward, and that involves health and medicine and legal and a lot of other things. So if you'd like to be part of helping to build this society, send me an email. Would love to talk to you about it, and I'll send you details. So remember, not this weekend, but next weekend is the annual Food Over Medicine retreat. I just added another lecture to it on why is it so hard to lose weight. So many of you asked me for it. We covered it in the Empower workshop earlier this year, but we don't keep the recordings for a lot of the stuff for longer than 30 days. So I have added it back in. And so some of the topics that I know you want to hear about, the great protein debate, supplements, I've selected a few. We'll talk about them in general. Cooking classes, menu plans, irritable bowel, gluten, glyphosate, inflammation, topics you've been asking about, you commonly ask about it, and so I'm going to cover them in the workshop. So if you join or upgrade your membership, you will get a significant discount on this weekend, and it might even be for free. And I've scheduled a special bonus implementation session on Sunday night. So it's Friday night, all day and evening, Saturday with meal breaks, and then Sunday night, we're going to put all of this to work. You're going to actually fill out little documents I'm going to send you, what you're going to do and how you're going to move forward with what you have learned. So you don't want to miss this. I only do it once a year and then it's done, right? So let's move on to some news. And I have some good news and better news to share this week that will hopefully make you be proud to have been a supporter of Make Americans Free Again. If you're a tribe leader, you're going to be super proud and smile ear to ear, and hopefully make more of you happy to donate. I know I'm always asking for money, but I have to, because what we're doing is expensive. It's the right thing to do, as you will see in just a few minutes here. But I'm just going to start by saying we were right. We were right about this all along from March of 2020. It's good to be right. It's much better than the people who were wrong and what they're going to have to go through. So I know there's been a lot of circulation of this, but in case you don't know, the White House has changed the COVID-19 website. It's worth visiting it just to see. It now states at the top the true origins of COVID-19. And it says that the proximal origin paper, which was the first cover-up paper published in a journal, was used by Mr. Fauci to push the preferred narrative that COVID-19 originated naturally. And then it has a whole list of reasons why that can't be true. And it echoes the points that we made in court early on. And these are just a few. The virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. In fact, Mr. Daszak submitted the cookbook, if you will, to make this virus to DARPA, which is a government agency. And this agency, which approved Agent Orange, said this was too dangerous to do, this bat virus stuff that Daszak wanted to do. And then the second bullet point, data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans, which runs contrary to previous pandemics where there were multiple spillover events. It says that Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research in inadequate biosafety labs. And so I wrote about that in COVID Operation in 2020, that the French who helped to build that place were screaming to the world, there's something terrible going on in there. They're walking around in hazmat suits and the building wasn't suitable for that. Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. This virus started circulating a long time before we started talking about it here in the United States. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced. And we made that claim in the original dossier on Daszak that we gave to members of Congress and to the certain members of the Senate. We think that that probably helped them to open their investigation. I don't know that for sure, but we did provide them with that. And we recounted in that document episodes in which virus had jumped species And within a very short time, the specific animal of origin was found. And there are several places or episodes in history where this has happened. The document or the website goes on to say current government mechanisms for overseeing dangerous gain-of-function research are incomplete and lack accountability. EcoHealth, under the leadership of Daszak, used taxpayer dollars to facilitate dangerous gain-of-function research in Wuhan. And he violated the terms of his contracts with the NIH. And then he's subsequently been debarred. He can't get money from the federal government for, I think it's 5 years. New evidence also shows, this will warm your heart a little bit, the Department of Justice has opened an investigation into EcoHealth's pandemic era activities. All good and all echoing what we claimed in 2021. We knew we were right when we made the claim. We just had a lot of people who were conflicted who were arguing against it. Some of those conflicted people included Daszak and his allies. Anyway, the site then features a copy of the clemency grant from Biden to Fauci, and it discusses obstruction on the behalf of EcoHealth, where Daszak obstructed the Select Committee's investigation by instructing his staff to reduce the scope and pace of productions and doctoring documents before releasing them to the public. He provided false statements to Congress, and that's probably why the DOJ is investigating. He perjured himself, and that's a criminal action. So right now, we're the least of Daszak's worries, suing him 6 times and his other friends involved in this. He may have some criminal culpability in this, and I know it's been a long time coming, but we have people now, not just us, who are interested in going after him. And then remember David Lawrence, the guy who looked like he slept in his car the day before his congressional hearing? He was Daszak's friend who helped him by providing information, lobbying for the EcoHealth board not to fire him, and which they ultimately did. He got fired in January of this year. And he lied, Morenz lied to Congress, unlawfully deleted and destroyed documents. So he's not out of the woods yet either. So all this to say, I'm not going to read everything on the website. You can go there and look at it yourself, but we were right. We were right. We did the right thing, and we were right all along. And a lot has changed. And I've said before, we benefit from the fact that litigation's like watching paint dry, because had the paint dried a whole lot sooner, we wouldn't have had all of this documentation to help us in court. So that makes me smile. All right, now here's news item number 2. Related to news item number 1, Mr. Daszak was so sad to announce that EcoHealth is closing its doors. That was one of our stated goals when we started this in 2021. So he posted this: after more than 50 years of operations in the US and around the world, EcoHealth Alliance is closing its doors. As I write this, the headquarter offices in New York City are already closed, and the closure follows 5 years of harassment that began in the early pandemic and involved an unprecedented series of efforts to politically target and ultimately defund a leading research organization. I'm super proud of the fact that we were involved in targeting Mr. Daszak and his friends and his organization for what they did. And so I guess, Mr. Daszak, you're onto us. We did deliberately set out to make sure that you were no longer funded and couldn't anymore engage in this dangerous activity. It is dangerous. That's what the woman from the World Health Organization, you might remember, who co-signed an amicus brief filed in one of our EcoHealth cases, said that this work is dangerous. Her fear, which she expressed, I'm paraphrasing, was that if the court didn't do something about it, that they'd do it again, that this would happen again. So anyway, Mr. Daszak has started another nonprofit which will conduct, quote, scientific research and design on the ground solutions for conservation and global health. And he talks about building a sustainable future for people and wildlife, and to account for the impact of our global footprint and the life of the oceans and all this kind of stuff. And there's a little hint that he might want to do some gain of function research, but he can't take any money from the government for 5 years, nor can any organization that he's associated with. And, you know, almost all of the tens of millions of dollars he blew through making dangerous viruses in Wuhan came from the government. So it might be a while before rich people decide that gain of function research is a good idea. And by the way, doing it in China is problematic because Trump is not making it very easy to do things over there. So I just have to share a delicious side note. And under normal circumstances, I don't delight in people having problems, but I can't help myself here. So I'm sorry. I just can't help myself. One of our team looked into Dajak's change of business address. And so he used to be in this fancy office, an 8th Avenue Manhattan office, and now he's located in a strip center next to Bagelicious in Toma, New York. So I was trying to think of what would be better about this from Mr. Dajak, because New York City is really an exciting place. And I actually looked up the building he was in. It was a fancy schmancy building, high rent area. But anyway, just think he doesn't have to worry about parking. He just pulls right up to the storefront. And before, if he wanted a bagel, he had to get in the elevator, go downstairs, walk down the sidewalk. I mean, he can just walk right next door and get a fresh bagel. So maybe this is actually a great move for Mr. Dajak. And again, I don't love celebrating somebody else's problems, and I don't normally do it. But this guy is terrible. What these people did was terrible. They made enormous amounts of money doing it. And there's a quote in Cheryl Atkinson's book called Follow the Science. She has a few chapters devoted to COVID. And she just expresses incredulity that, to make a vaccine for a virus that doesn't exist. This is what they said they were doing. So we are worried about something escaping nature and becoming a pathogen that kills people. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a pathogen that kills people so we can make a vaccine for it. And by the way, maybe we'll get rich based on having the vaccine for it. And it's such convoluted logic. You just wonder who would think up such a thing to do. And then who in the federal government would think it's a good idea to fund it? It's insane. It's insane. And we have done something about it. And we're going to continue to do something about it. And then news item number 3, not related to Dajak, but it sure is related to the topic of we were right. A new study was conducted in Greece to help to correct the record for who really died of COVID and who didn't. And so here are the highlights. The article starts by saying, and this was published in a journal, in Greek hospitals, all deaths with a positive SARS-CoV-2 test were counted as COVID deaths. That happened all over the world, including here in the US. The objective was to look at who really died of COVID, primary cause of death, or people who died in the hospital from something else, but they were testing positive for COVID, so the death was attributed to COVID, but it wasn't. And so 7 hospitals data was looked at for the period between January 1st and August 31st, 2022. There were 530 in-hospital deaths during that period for these 7 hospitals, and the result was that 45+% were categorized, incorrectly categorized. They were not due to COVID, they were with COVID. So that's just the beginning of setting the record straight. Cheryl also covers this in Follow the Science, the book that Wellness Forum is using for its Healthy Book Club this month, about how overstated the death rate was by just counting everything as COVID death. I thought it was also interesting that the people in the hospitals who did die from COVID, most of them received remdesivir, which was a drug that actually killed patients. The Ebola study with remdesivir had to end early because it was clearly killing patients. And that was Fauci's favorite drug. What does that say about him? So the bottom line, we were reporting this years ago. In my first video in March 2020, I predicted this, a fake pandemic orchestrated to make drug and vaccine makers rich. At that time, I implicated China. It wasn't until a few months later I knew it came from the lab, and my book, COVID Operation, which was published in September of 2020, gave detailed documentation of that. So the bottom line is a lot of us, including me, took a beating during the COVID debacle. We were harassed and deplatformed and censored. I received death threats and was surveilled for months. I've taken a financial beating through this whole thing that I might never recover from at my age. And I will tell you, just right now, it was worth it. I would do it again in a nanosecond because it's the right thing to do. Because we knew all along what was going on, and somebody had to step up and do something about it, and we did. And that's thanks to all of you too, because by myself, I could never have done this. So it's nice to be proven right. We'll see how many people apologize. I don't think I'm going to hold my breath waiting for a Dash Act to issue some public apology. But let me tell you what could have been different had this guy just been honest about what happened. Viruses that jump species don't spread like wildfire. That should have been a clue that this wasn't the case from the beginning. These people who claim to be such geniuses at science, right? But they're highly lethal. Viruses that come from labs are not as lethal, but they do spread like wildfire. You have a whole lot of sick people. And had they been honest about this from the get-go, they would have taken a lot of heat from it, but I don't think it would have turned out to be quite the disaster it turned into. But they always say the cover-up is the problem, and what they did was a problem, but covering up made a worse problem than it needed to be. We have only just begun the process of making the perpetrators pay for what they did. And I think it's up to us. We still remain the only people suing these people. We still remain the only people that have gone after Fauci and his agency and all these bad actors. So it's not like you need to donate to a whole lot of organizations that are trying to make this right. It's basically us. And we're going to continue on. We are going to continue on. We're going to finish what we started. So anyway, we'll take a real short victory lap to celebrate the fact that we were right, that we were on the right side of all this, that we're doing something about it. We don't just talk about it and complain about it and woe is me and how awful it all is. We're doing something about it. And that is a wonderful place to be. So thank you so much for watching today. If you're inclined to send a donation to us, you can donate online or send a check to our office. And of course, every time you buy something from Wellness Forum, that helps us too, because we're housing this whole thing and trying to run two businesses on one company's budget. So that's super helpful. All right, that's it for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. And I will be back to you next week with more news. Thank you so much for watching.